It's Sean Patrick Sullivan with the Reverend Douglas C Moore here at LAiDLAW Memorial Church once again. So before we get started,
yes,
let's talk about what we want to talk about.
yes, that would be a good
All right.
plan.
So I'm definitely going to ask you about Easter.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I've been doing all of the questions. Can you have a question?
I have a plan for you.
Do you have, oh, you do?
I have a plan for you.
Do you have questions for me?
Oh, I do.
Okay. And is there any, like, what's important to you to communicate today, if anything at all?
Grace and hope. That's all. Any day we
Grace
can
and
get to
hope,
that.
Will and Grace, Frank and Gracie.
Yeah. My wife said that on her tombstone was to be written, just one more thing. Because she felt like that was the story of her life, was just one more thing to do.
Is it on?
No. In the end, we decided on the greatest of these is love at the end of the day. But it was a happy moment of evaluating one's life in terms of what do you want to do next, whatever comes up.
That's kind of fantastic. And at some point today, I want to delve into your mysterious Mennonite past.
Okay. Yep.
All right. So anyway, let's get started.
Sure.
Reverend Moore, as you know, I'm church shopping.
Is it shopping or hopping? Because we have both.
Both. Give me your elevator pitch for me coming over on Easter.
Okay, the elevator pitch on Easter. Well, and I always think it's good to tell people what they're up against so that they can decide not to come if it's not something they're interested in. Right? When you have guests at your house, you kind of want to do that. You say, well, we're having beef, and if you're a vegetarian, yes, you're probably not going to be that comfortable.
Yes.
And one of the wonderful things I think about that exists, at least in theory, in North America, is that there is this variety of religious experience and opportunity,
yes,
which I celebrate. I don't think the whole world should be Christian or should be a particular denomination. I think the whole world should be free to practice faith in all the different crazy ways that occurs, and let people find their way, and do that in a mutually respectful.
Yes.
Have that mutual respectful dialogue. At LAiDLAW, this is a very unique congregation to my mind, both in terms of Protestant congregations and in terms of the United Church as a denomination. The United Church as a denomination was three big churches coming together. It was the Presbyterians, the Methodists, the Congregationalists. Then there was a few Mennonites a little later, and there were what they called union churches out west. It became clear to people in the 1920s and 30s that, forming 3 or 4 different denominations in a place where 10 people lived didn't make sense. So there were union churches. So those churches came into. So there's a great variety. This one was a Presbyterian mission church, which is about as weird as you can get, because the Presbyterians were generally rich and well off,
yes,
and a little bit snooty.
Yes.
And this church was built for the riffraff that they didn't want to be bothered worshiping with. And that's kind of sort of held in there was a period of time, maybe in the 50s.
In what way? This is still a church for riffraff?
Yeah, I mean, as I go,
then I'll fit in.
Yeah, it's shall we say, it's not the standard. Even the building isn't standard, because the building was built again by an architect who was a Mason who was not listening to any church people at the time. He didn't have to, because they gave him his $20,000 and said, build this place.
Year?
For 1912.
Okay.
So he just built it, and he built a Greco-Roman temple.
Okay.
A cheap Greco-Roman temple, because he actually did build an expensive one down the street for folks who wanted one. But this one was sort of his, we'll get it right in terms of its proportions, but we can't do the fancy treatments, and so thus it needs paint.
So they hired a Mason.
Yep. Well, the other Presbyterians, and then this group of folks showed up, and it's been an amazing, to me, it's one of the most, these folks, once they opened it for the factory workers and the people living in the cottages around. And so they came, and they sort of have stayed. And some have gone off to great. I mean, there's members of this congregation who have gone off to be Jewish, and there's members that have gone off to be, very powerful business people and all that sort of thing. But the congregation retains its original format, if that says. And in worship, we play with the children a bit. There's a felt thing at the front of the church, which I'm told is unusual, and we in the children's story, we talk to the children or with the children more, because talking to children doesn't usually work. They usually have an agenda that isn't yours. So just,
right.
I'll plan something and away we go. I think on Easter Sunday, we're going to crack eggs on each other's heads, because that's what you do on
Are you serious?
Yes, of course I am. The only thing I wasn't allowed to do was to burn a coat.
Why would you burn a coat?
To make a point.
Of?
At the time, I modified it. No, I'm sorry, it wasn't a coat. It was actually a towel, because we were talking about the burning bush, and everybody gets all crazy about the burning bush.
Why? Because it's cannabis?
Well, I don't know. Well, who knows? But it's always the miraculous thing, and I do like, as a Protestant, I do like people to get over magical thinking and quit looking for miracles and start looking to the world they live in, which is a miracle in and of itself. It's just you want something else, and it's like, why do you want another miracle? You got one. Quit whining, and which is another Protestant theme. But I had worked this all out. It was wonderful. I was newly married, and I'd worked this out one afternoon in the garage. If you take rubbing alcohol and you mix it equal parts with water,
okay,
and you soak a lovely
arson
rag
tips
in it.
From Reverend Moore.
No, it's not arson, but you soak that rag in that mixture, and then you hold it with your barbecue tongs, and you hit it with the lighter at the bottom. It goes up like a blaze of glory,
yes,
but it doesn't burn the cloth.
It doesn't?
It does not burn the cloth. It doesn't even singe it.
Really?
Some silly science book I was reading, demonstrations to, and I mean, that's what I wanted to do. And my new spouse found me out in the garage, and then I tried it down in the laundry room just to make sure I had it right. And she found what I was doing, and I said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to do this at church on Sunday." She said, "Oh no, you're not," and sort of put the kibosh on it. The most trouble I ever got into for a children's story was that actually occurred is I went to, I think it was at the time, the Salvation Army, and I bought this lovely red children's coat.
Okay.
And I brought it to church on Sunday, and it was the parable of the wedding feast, where there's the parable where the bridesmaids are all supposed to have enough oil to get through the evening waiting for the bride and groom to come back, and a bunch of them don't have enough oil, and they ask their others, "Oh, give us some oil, because our lamps are going to go out," and the other ones say, "Well, we can't give you oil. If we give you our oil, then our lamps are going to go out, and then there's nobody with a lamp, and what good is that? Go get some oil." And of course, while they go to get oil, the bridegroom arrives, they go in, they shut the door, and you're out of luck. You haven't prepared, so you're not going to get in. And so I thought, with young children, where I was in a nice rural area, we told the story of the two young guys who went out for a hike, and these two guys, and the two young guys, Zavitz brothers, I think at the time, said, "You've got this coat, you've gone for a hike. One of you brought a coat, one of you didn't. And now you get lost, and now you can't find your way home, and it's getting cold. And what do you do with the coat?" And so I just took a pair of scissors and I cut the coat in half, and I said, "There. Now you each got half a coat." And of course, the reaction of the children was, "You're an idiot. What have you done?" Right? And the parents were really upset because I cut a coat in half, which they thought but children know stupid.
Yes.
I mean, they really do. I find that the most interesting objection to illustrating stuff with children is that, "Oh, well, the children will do some stupid thing because they've seen that you do this." And it's like, no, they won't. Children, the only hope I have for the universe is the fact that children will not do the stupid things the adults did. And you see that, at least I see that in children. Whatever their parents did stupid, that's what they're trying. My own do that. My own children try not to do the stupid things I've done. Sometimes they overdo it because, but that's what children are like. So I have no fear for them. What I fear for them is they don't have any experience.
No life experience.
No, well, or, it's just kind of sad. My son teaches school, and at one point they were watching the Charlie Brown Christmas, and one 9-year-old leaned over to the other 9-year-old and said, "What's a shepherd?" And the other kid, with exact seriousness, whispered back, "Everybody knows, it's a dog."
Okay.
Yeah. So why would you come? Because we're half lunatics, and it's the people who come here are open and interesting, and they're not judgmental. Like I've had lots of people come here, and we do a fair number of baptisms for people who say, I can't do
on
this.
Easter.
No, not
you mean in
usually
general?
not, but in general, like it's a place where people can come, and we're not here to judge anybody.
That's what I'm here for.
We don't care, that you're, divorced or you're, well, and I've been asked to baptize children by, their mothers or their fathers, and say, well, as long as the mother or father has permission, but just because the two of you, I'm not going to say to you, well, you have to get married and then I'll baptize your child.
Okay.
Or here's the hoops you jump through.
Right.
In order to, you do what I tell you, and then I'll do what you're asking.
That's what Catholics are for.
Right. And we just don't do that here. You come, you have some fun, and we'll be fine. And Easter, and the other thing.
And what?
Whoops.
Oh, ladies and